Yeah, totally. Okay, everybody. Well, welcome. It's so great to have you here today. We have Food Business Basics. It's a 5-part series. Every single Thursday, the rest of April at 5:30 p.m. And tonight we have food trucks. And I'm super excited to have Tony with Da Nang and Heaven with B-Heaveny Cafe. And we'll introduce them a bit more later. I'm teaming up tonight with Micah Elconin from Eugene's Table for this 5-part series. And I'm Ariel Ruben, the Lane County Venture Catalyst with Oregon Rain. And I also have my own marketing firm and like to say I'm the innovation strategist for my family's business, Hummingbird Wholesale, right in Eugene. I'm going to hand it over to Micah to give his intro on who he is.
Hi, everybody. I'm Micah Elconin. I am the president of Season to Taste, which is a consulting firm focused on regional food business and food systems organizations. And the main project I'm working on right now is called Eugene's Table, which is a partnership of Lane County food and beverage manufacturing companies. I like what you put there, Ariel. I also, in a past life, was a chef. I ran a personal chef business called The Educated Vegetable 15 years ago now for most of my 20s. So yeah, that's how I got into food, was working as a chef.
Awesome. Thanks, Micah. It's great to partner with you. So today we're just going to do a quick intro like this, and then we'll start the panel discussion. And you all can have Q&A throughout. So if you have a question, go ahead and put that in the chat. And we'll close around 6:30 p.m. And just a little bit of virtual etiquette, of course, if you wouldn't mind just going on mute, just so that we can mitigate any background rustle, that'd be amazing. And if you have questions, you can post them in the chat, as I mentioned, or you can even use the raise hand feature. And of course, we can just unmute once we get the discussion started. And this is a place for fun, learning, and inclusivity. Please be polite, supportive, and positive in conversation and in the chat. And this event is being recorded, so I'll post it on the Rain YouTube channel so you all can have it as a resource in future, and you're welcome to share. Just a quick overview of Rain. We partner with communities to catalyze entrepreneurial ecosystems, connect entrepreneurs to resources, including overlooked entrepreneurs, and contribute to the creation of prosperous economies. And we like to say we're building infrastructure for startups, so making sure that all of these pieces are activated in a community. And we can't do that alone. So we love catalyzing community and building wonderful partnerships, such as working with Eugene's Table. And we know we're stronger together, especially now. It's important to partner and stay connected, and all are welcome. A huge thank you to our partners, mentors, entrepreneurs, and funders. We love creating thriving entrepreneurial ecosystems with all of you. This is our team. We're scattered across Oregon. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We'd love to help your business needs. And I always like to mention what's next. So there's always free resources available. You're welcome to email me. We also have ongoing mentorship available. And our next Thursday Food Business Basics topic is restaurants. So please join us. We have Noisette and also La Granada. And both of those will be very interesting. We have fabulous panelists there. The following week is Consumer Products with Red 8 Cinnamon and Oregon Tea Traders. Following that, we have Agricultural and Farming with White Rabbit Gardens and Organic Redneck. And then we have Beer, Wine, and Spirits, last but not least, with Homegrown in Florence, Hayworth Estates out of Coburg, and also Coburg Distilling. So please join in. Today, again, we have food trucks, and I am going to hand it over to Micah to start the panel discussion, and welcome Tony and Heaven. Sweet. Oh, Micah, you're on mute. Sorry.
Changing that. Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, to get things started, I just wanted to have Tony and Heaven just tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and what got you to this point in your career. Let's start with Tony, and then we'll do Heaven next.
Hey, everybody. I'm Tony No. I run Da Nang. I also have one other co-owner, and he's my best friend. And we started. Oh, do you want me to give all the background and all that?
Sure. Yeah. Just the short version of how you got into this sort of thing.
Okay. No, like origin story, like 2-hour origin story.
I mean, I'm interested. I don't know if everyone will take them both.
I'm messing around. But we were best friends. We got started in college, and we were, cooking and testing recipes out of our apartments in college. And that's pretty much it. And we do Vietnamese food. We like to keep it fresh and light, grill centric. We just make food that we would like to eat and serve to people.
Had you guys worked in restaurants or food service at all before this?
My only other experience, I had 2 experiences leading up to the food cart, and one was in high school, and I was a busboy for the late and the great Ocean Sky. If anybody remembers that spot, legendary spot. It went downhill over the years just because the owners got older, and it's kind of just lost its charm after a while. But when in its prime, when it was hitting, oh my God, you couldn't beat it. It was unbeatable. And that was like my summer job for like for a full summer. And then after that, right before opening the food cart, I started working for another food truck called Bacon Nation here in town. And they're great folks, and they make great food too. And they kind of showed me the ropes and let me, get my feet wet and what to expect with the lifestyle. And just seeing them run it, like really gave me a lot of insight into how I would want to run things. And also just, it was just a good little window into, the world. And then, and no regrets. And I'm very thankful for them for kind of like, showing me the path.
That's awesome. That's a cool little local mentorship story. Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Heaven, do you want to give us a little bit more info about your background?
Sure. Hi, I'm Heaven. I have been in the food industry for 25 years. I worked for several different restaurants, which kind of led to helping run the restaurants. My last one before I was a business owner was Holy Cow. I worked there for 5 years. Chef and doing the production for like the store products and stuff. And after that, I kind of felt I had the skill set to just why not try it on my own since I was like running their business for him. So I had an offer from a friend. They said, why don't you just borrow my food truck and see if you like it? So I borrowed it, gave it a go, and it just kind of took off. So that's where I'm at about 5 years ago. So
awesome.
Yeah, it went really well the first go around. So it just kind of was meant to be. So that's where B-Heaveny was born.
Awesome.
And so actually now I have a second cart too that I just opened up right next to my food cart, the coffee cart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you both are sort of long-term Eugene or Lane Countyans. I don't know where you've been specifically in the area, but you've been here for a while. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I'm going to just ask some more specific questions that I thought might be helpful to some of the folks on the call. And obviously, if anyone else on the call is finding that the conversation stimulates other questions, just pop them in the chat, and Ariel will monitor that for me. So we'll just stick with this order of operations. We'll go Tony, Heaven, so I don't have to direct traffic. But so with the first question, what was your process like for acquiring, designing, and sort of renovating your food truck? Were there any unexpected challenges that came up? If you could do it again, what would you do differently?
I can start.
Sure.
So we acquired our food cart. We called around to a bunch of trailer places, and our thinking was we wanted to go with a food cart over a food truck. Was for one, food trucks are a little bit more expensive just because you're paying for like an engine. You got all these moving parts, and the carts are a lot more accessible. But and also too, the other pro is those food trucks are constantly breaking down too. Like when you break down, you lose so much. Like you lose a day in business, right? That's like unacceptable. And Like whereas a food cart, if you're pulling something with it, and that breaks down, you can still like go to like U-Haul and rent like a truck to, save the day, right? And that's why we went with the food cart. And it's just a little bit more versatile. You could fit it into more places because it's smaller. It doesn't have as big of a footprint. And definitely it's more cost effective. There's a lower barrier of entry to get into. And what we did to keep costs down was we called around, but the cheapest spots we can get trailers were in Portland, where they would just sell you the bare bone trailers. And there's a bunch of businesses that will outfit them for you and everything, but they charge a pretty penny for those. So we decided to watch a bunch of YouTube videos and just just kind of DIY your own food cart. And we got the cart, pulled it back to Eugene, and just started just basics. Anything we could do, like putting up the walling and insulating it and making like putting down concrete board to make the heat line. We just did all ourselves. We just got all the equipment. And we did this during 2013. Do you guys remember when the big blizzard happened, the big snowmageddon? Yeah, we did. We were building the food cart throughout that whole process. I would be out there, in the snow, like freezing my butt off and just building the, just, chipping away at the food cart. And that's fun to remember, actually doing all that. And then stuff that we couldn't do, like electrical work, and things that we didn't feel like plumbing, like the propane lines. And then we went to Valley Restaurant Equipment. Big shout out to JJ over there. He's one of the best like restaurant people, like suppliers in town, in Lane County for sure. And he sells used equipment, and he will always give you a fair price. And he's always willing to work with you, and he's just an overall great guy. And we just, slowly acquired pieces from there. Looked on Craigslist, checked Craigslist every day, maybe twice a day, day and night, looking for whatever we needed. And that's pretty much how we put the food cart together.
Tony, there's a quick question asking rough cost. Are you willing to share?
Yeah. Like, my situation is going to be different than your situation, and this was like 7 years ago or 8 years ago now, actually, and things have probably, inflation has probably happened and things like that. But at that time, we built the food cart for about $24K. But that's like us putting on a lot of our own like man hours and,
Tony, is there anything you'd do differently if you could do it again in terms of the build out?
There is like little minor things, like different pieces of equipment. Like I would suggest, if you can afford it, always go with a new refrigerator. Because we bought a bunch of used refrigerators, and we must have gone through like 4 used refrigerators, and so we, finally just pulled the trigger and just splurge on a big expense, like, buying it brand new and have it last forever. That was one of the things, instead of buying like an old equipment that's like, 18 years old, like,
all right.
That and, it's just like small things that we would have, wish that we would have just configured, there's like small configurations around, right? So like we didn't have any experience, so we just didn't, so maybe try imagining going through the motions before you design your space. And if you, if you don't have the opportunity to do that, like you always modify things, but ideally I think, because everyone's cuisine's a little bit different and how they want to do things. I like to customize things to my liking and, my feel.
Tony, there's another question. What size trailer do you have?
I believe it's 9x12. Yeah, or 9x14. Sorry, 9x14. And it has like it has a 7-foot ceiling.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Heaven, do you want to tell us a little bit about your cart or truck acquisition and build out experience?
Sure, yeah. The cart that I borrowed was an Island Oasis trailer that was converted into a food cart. So it was really tiny and it got me off the ground. It was my first year of in the business, but it was just really small. So that's when I started doing some shopping around and actually found a cart that I have on Craigslist. And it was a guy who had gotten his first son and it just didn't work out. So it was pretty much a brand new cart that had all the wiring in it, it had a 3-pound sink, it had the shelving, everything except for a couple things here and there. And I got it for a really good deal. I got it for $6,000, so it was like, perfect. And I was just right here to meet up right at it. So we hauled that out to where I was living and did some renovation. We added a hood, industrial hood, and then we painted it and added a couple more goodies, installed a fridge and stuff. And it went really smooth. It was actually a couple months process of getting it the way I wanted it. So I got really lucky finding that cart. And I went to the cart route for the same purposes as Tony, as there's a lot more you can do with the cart when it comes to festivals. It fits in places a lot easier. The place that I was renting from didn't allow food trucks, which is downtown in the Keezy. So there's a lot more you can do with the cart. So that's why I went with the cart route as well. It's just a lot more versatile. So yeah, that's the whole process of the cart, and it's been a really good cart. It's been good to me. So I haven't had too many issues, knock on wood, so far. But yeah, I guess with the question, if I would have done anything differently with the process, I probably would have hired someone professional to install the hood because that was really hard. And I put my husband through a lot trying to do that. So that would probably be the one thing I would have done differently, is just have somebody else in there to help my husband, because I really felt bad. I didn't do it all. But other than that, it was a really great process, and it's still needed. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like I lost the screen.
Heaven, really
Lost
cool.
the screen.
Your audio is a little bit weird. I don't know why. If you wouldn't mind just trying to log in on your phone too, you could just use your phone to dial in, and then we can mute your video one, and then you can be on two different if that works for you.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like I lost my screen too. So.
Okay, weird. Yeah, you can turn back on your video there, but yeah, while we go to Tony, if you want to just try logging in on your phone too, that'd be awesome.
All right. So next question. This is about marketing the food cart. What tools and or tactics do you use to help market your business, and how do you help encourage customers to come back time and time again?
Marketing is probably one of my favorite things about, like I love like all facets of business, like all the areas, maybe not accounting so much in the books, maybe that my business partner handles all that. So I don't really have to do any of that, but marketing is fun just because, you get to be so creative with what you get to do and how you want to reach out to people and connect with people. And today, if anybody has watched Chef with, John Favreau, but you gotta watch that movie if you're trying to get into the food truck or food cart industry. You gotta watch that movie. It's so good. But in that movie, it shows you how he really utilizes social media. And social media, is the greatest tool for marketing in our day and age. And it's free. You don't gotta pay a dime to do with social media. You just gotta put in some work and fiddle around some technology and all that. But other than that, it's free. And also it gives you a really like a direct line of communication with customers, like you can chat with customers, they can comment and you can reply back to them instantly, which is pretty awesome. And so we've always, so like our thought process was like the Twitter mentality, right? It's always try to like, how much dense information can you fit into a limited amount of space, And I think that's probably the best way to do social media, is you want to be straight to the point, concise, and, want to be very precise and, also, just pop and grab people's attention, right? And usually that's, by posting like a really good photo, just because like food, people like to eat with their eyes, and content that like to eat with their eyes too. And in the beginning days, because we're so mobile, we would always post like our schedules on there. We would post specials, things like that. But at the same time, like social media I've seen a lot of people who use social media and also have businesses get in some trouble, or like they have like a hard time differentiating themselves from the business. I think that's important, or maybe not, sometimes not important, but I like to keep it separate. Like my own personal accounts are my own personal accounts. My business is separate. And that's kind of a lot to like handle too sometimes, but I highly recommend you separating your personal and your business. And that just keeps things a lot more neat and clean. And for some people, you can avoid you getting in trouble, like.
I just have to say, you guys have a really
other than that,
social media game.
Yeah, we, like I was saying, like I that was like when I was at the university, I went to U of O and I took a bunch of like marketing and like advertising classes through the business school and the advertising school. And so that was like always one of my favorite courses to take. And just because it's like the only business class where you get to be kind of like creative, like otherwise business is usually just cut and dry, and it's always like one size fits all. But the marketing aspect was really fun for us. And if you can, like invest in a good camera and, take good photos of your food. That's really important. Like you want, don't be like McDonald's or like Carl's Jr. when they take a photo of their food, how like it always looks better on the ads and stuff. Make your food look how it looks in the photo. If you do it like that, that's the recipe for success, and what you were asking that last question, Micah, keep people coming back. The thing is just consistency. You want to keep things consistent, and your service has to be top notch all the time. But also, it's just no cutting corners, making everything right, but always making it right. And just just giving some love to the product, respecting the customer, and I think if you do that, and a lot of times you don't even need social media. If you just focus on the food, like just forget what everything I say. First and foremost, focus on the food. If the food isn't tasting right, no marketing can save it. The food is the main star. That's what people come for. And if it's good enough, it'll work like old-fashioned days. Word of mouth. Word of mouth is the most powerful tool you can have, actually.
I saw today on your social media that you guys are switching to avocado toast.
Yep. Yeah. Just we're just tired of doing this menu, and we just want to give the millennials what they want.
Yeah, I showed up and they didn't have avocado toast.
Yeah.
I was super pissed off.
Yeah.
If you get, for those that aren't catching it, it's an April Fool's joke that their team put up on their Instagram. It's pretty good. Yeah. Nice one. Okay, awesome. Heaven, you want to talk to us a little bit about how you market the cart and how you keep customers coming back? Oh, I think she's still
hear me okay?
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Hey.
Hey, woohoo! Okay. Yeah. So the marketing aspects, I guess, is the main thing for me has been word of mouth. So that's really helped a lot because I offer something that's really different on my menu. It's like all vegetarian, vegan options. And a lot of places don't offer the different dietary needs that a lot of people are dealing with, gluten-free and all that other stuff. So I try to really make my menu versatile for a lot of different diet varieties. And And I really go out of my way, like, to give good customer service, to make sure I get to know my customers, like by their name or by what they usually like, have their usual ready for them when they come on their lunch break. So that's really been my main marketing. I haven't done too much marketing besides social media. That's really what's been keeping me going, is just being very outgoing, very friendly, offering something that people want and that they can have, because there's so many, dietary issues that people have. So that's been a really boost for me, honestly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Just quickly, Micah, both of them have really good locations. Both of you have great locations, like a lot of traffic going by. So I would assume that would have a lot to do with it.
It does. I do get a lot of good foot traffic right there. It's a very good location, especially when there's farmers market, Saturday markets. That definitely helps a lot. And just being in a food cart hub is really useful too, because you get kind of the energy of all the food carts around you, and it really does help a lot with the business. It's nice.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Ariel, because am I correct that both of you are predominantly set in one location at this point? Is that true?
Yes. I don't move unless they have an event in the Kesey Square and they need us to move, or I have some sort of event elsewhere, but very rarely do I move, maybe once or twice a year, but that's my spot. Yeah.
Tony, you guys are at the Wine Lab 100% now, right?
Yes, yeah, we've been that was like our permanent location for I think 5 years now.
Yep.
Yeah. In the beginning days, we would do a circuit. We would go to all the wineries and breweries, and but also as we grew, we kept on getting more and more requests for events and caterings and things like that. And 2 years ago, we built another food cart for that purpose of taking it to catering and events and things like that.
Wow.
But this last year we haven't seen much traction. It's just because it's for catering and things like that. Because of pandemic, we weren't able to use it all last year.
Well, that's good to know about. Ariel and I both do some events in normal times, so maybe we'll have to.
Yeah, and but yeah, so that other cart, we have some exciting news for it coming soon here. We so it's going to have a home somewhere.
Oh, the name.
That's all. It's going to have a home somewhere. Yeah.
Or maybe it's going to be avocado toast place. I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. We're gonna have some awesome PB&Js for people.
Awesome. Okay, I got one more question for you both, and then we'll switch to some questions from the crowd. So, Tony, you kind of referenced that 2020 was a difficult year, to say the least. How do you, given all the changes that have come into place with lifestyles and technology in response to, predominantly the pandemic, but maybe some of the other 2020 anomalies. How do you guys see the food cart business changing in response to all of this?
Well, the big thing is I think there's going to be a lot more people wanting to open food carts and trucks, right? Because throughout the pandemic, it was a little bit easier for us compared to like a brick and mortar restaurant. Just because, the nature of it, we're outside, we're serving people outside already. And most food trucks and carts, they have a good base of takeout business. Like I would say, like for us, half of our business is takeout. It was already. So when the pandemic did come around, like, don't get me wrong, we're not thriving, but we're kind of plateauing and just surviving. But I definitely see a lot of people doing this more, and also a lot of people are kind of hurting right now economically. They're hurting, so something like a food cart is a little bit more accessible and easier to enter, versus a restaurant. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot of restaurant spaces open right now that someone can just slide in and, you know, turn key and get it going. And that's the other downside of it. But I would say from our standpoint, the most difficult thing about the pandemic was our staffing. Like right when the pandemic hit, you know, we gave our employees a heads up, you know, like we gotta, you know, you guys gotta file for unemployment because we don't know how everything's going to play out. And, you know, just so we laid everybody off just because we wanted them to be taken care of just in case business wasn't great, you know. And it wasn't great, you know, because in the beginning, that first month, it was so slow for us. And it was just me and my business partner working. And that was like what we did in the beginning days, you know, like it was just him and I, just, you know, and we had one other person on staff too. So it was 3 of us working, you know, 6 days a week. We were closed one day, but also we were only open during lunch because back then too, because that first month was a crazy month because, you know, everybody thought the world was ending. That was like it was like an apocalyptic moment. If you remember, you know, that's when everyone was going out and hoarding guns and ammo and buying up all the toilet paper, like, you know, classic apocalyptic, you know, like moves. So at night, no one would be out, you know, people will be out during the day, but at night, you know, no one would come. So that's why we were only open like half days. But then gradually, you know, as things got less scary, you know, things started picking up and, but the staffing thing was hard because, you know, like, why would you want to come back to and work, you know, this food truck job when the government was paying you so much to not work? You know, like, so it was hard, like trying to convince, you know, like our staff members who used to work for us to come back because, you know, they had a good thing going already. And they were getting paid more to not to work than work with us, you know, like, so that was like difficult.
Okay. Heaven, any thoughts on the ways the pandemic will change the business moving forward?
Well, it definitely changed it in the midst of it. I had opened up a second cart at the university and was only open for a month, and then the COVID hit and I had to shut it down. So that was kind of heart-wrenching. So that changed. And then downtown was a ghost town, like all of the office buildings, the banks, everything was gone. There was nothing open anymore. So I wasn't getting anything. There was no foot traffic or anything. So I actually closed the doors for 2 months in my cart. And was kind of nervous to reopen because, like Tony was saying, it was scary. Everyone was freaking out and kind of hiding. So going back to work was nerve-wracking. And I went back by myself just to kind of try it out. I had one employee, but she wasn't ready to come back. So going back in, it was nerve-wracking, but it wasn't as scary as I had thought, because we actually, like Tony was saying, we had that window of to-goes, and a lot of restaurants had to close and weren't able to offer that. So people were feeling more comfortable just going outside and getting their food to go and not dealing with as many people around them. So, and I have noticed that it still is that way. People want to go to restaurants, but they do feel more comfortable just being outside and getting their food really quick and just leaving and not being around the crowd. So it's actually kind of boosted me ever since the sun's come out and people are kind of starting to come out of their houses a little more. My business has gotten better this spring than it was last spring. So I have noticed kind of an incline in that. And I do think that food carts, food trucks have that, that thing that's offering the safety aspects for people where they don't feel like they have to be in crowds. They can get their food, they don't have to cook themselves, but they can do it quickly and they can move on. So I think that that's been really nice in that sense. And honestly, it wasn't that difficult financially to come back because the overhead was very minimal than it would have been in a restaurant. I didn't have to pay a huge staff. I didn't have to pay a huge brick and mortar rent. I mean, it wasn't as hard to get back in the groove as it would have been if I had a restaurant. And I think that's how a lot of people feel in that space, whether they had a restaurant or they're thinking about opening up a food business. It's a lot easier to get in the groove of opening up a food cart, food truck than it would be a restaurant. So
have you both found that, how is business at this moment in time compared to April 1st in any other year? Are you guys sort of back to normal or?
I
Sounds
would
like
say,
heaven is.
yeah, I would say it's getting back to normal for sure. Just even the last few days of when the sun's been out and it's been warm and they put the tables and chairs out and people are coming out more. And it's been really nice. It's been like a kind of a glimpse of the way it was. So yeah. And I mean, I feel like once Saturday market, farmers market happens and, you know, they have live music, it's going to pick up. People are ready for, you know, for things to get kind of back to normal. So it's definitely been picking up. It's been way better.
That's great.
And yeah, we've been seeing the same thing too. It's just that's the thing about food carts too. It's very weather dependent. You know, you definitely notice on nicer days it's going to be a little bit busier. And yeah, for the most part, yeah, we're doing all right now. You know, like but like also like a lot of our business was doing like events and festivals and things like that, and that, so we took a big hit on that just because none of that happened this whole last year. But it was also nice because then we could really also focus on just doing one area of business and not try to, you know, spread ourselves too thin across multiple, you know, avenues, especially in a time like this. So it just really, and it allowed us to get a lot more creative too. So like we offered so many things that we didn't get to offer because we were always so busy just doing other things. You know, like the family meals, we had so much fun doing family meals for people. Like that was so much fun. It just allowed us to like cook something different than we normally do. But also just, you know, it was nice providing something that was like a constant for people, like in especially hard times. You know, it's like, because our big thing was we did all our favorite comfort foods like growing up, and we try to, you know, put our own new twist to it to give to people, just so you know, it's like it was trying to like make like a warm hug, but in like a eatable form. But that, like, let's see.
Both of you seem to have a lot of activity, which is so cool. And also with employees, like Tony, I guess I had a question. When I go to Da Nang, I always feel like there's like 10 people working in the food truck. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of people in a tiny space. How do you do that?
It's like a, yeah, it's like a, you know, the circus, the clown car, you know, all of us are just trying to stuff ourselves in there. And so when we're staffing people, we try to hire small people. I'm kidding. It's just, we have very dedicated positions for everybody. And if anybody's concerned about COVID or anything, you know, we make everybody wear masks, and we have a giant fan that is an overkill for our actual food cart. It's made for like a space that's 8 times the size of our food cart because we're grilling so much. So airflow is amazing inside the food cart, and we have like 4 doors open all the time. And just, you know, just to address that with the, you know, the close proximity of all of us. And we're a very tight-knit group. So, and we all follow each other's social medias. So we all hold each other accountable. So if anybody's doing anything or partying or anything like that, we know pretty right away, you know? And that's like one of those things too, is like, with our crew, like we trust everybody. And we felt good about throughout the whole process, you know, like, you know, to this day, you know, knock on wood, we haven't had any like COVID scares or anything like that within our group, because everybody knows, you know, like, you know, if you put one of us at risk, we could go out of it, you know, we have to shut down the doors for 2 weeks, you know, because our staff is so small, you know, in the early days. And so that helps. And yeah, it's just, you know, and about, you know, having all of us on the cart, and it's just, you know, like as we've grown through the years, you know, it's just, we've had to like get creative in how we position people, and, you know, everyone's like has a dedicated, you know, space on the cart where they can't move from there. They have to stay there, or else they just ruin the whole flow of the cart.
Yeah, I also
And
meant it in as a compliment because it always seems like there's a lot of fun activity and it does look like you all are really close and it does seem like a family, which is awesome.
it has to be. When you're that in close proximity with people, you better get along with them, or else it's not going to end up well. Like, you're in a little tiny, small box with someone all day. You better have you should have a good time with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's actually one question in the chat. Let me get to that because I have tons of questions too, and I'm sure Micah, you have more. So someone's asking about the commercial food license. So Samantha, you said my state contact for domestic kitchen licensing told me that food carts are locally regulated, not state. Did this play a role in your decision to do a food cart? What in particular? Was it hard getting a food truck license? Heaven, do you want to speak to that?
No, I know it does change per state, but getting this license was not difficult. It's just through environmental health. It's a basic form you have to fill out. You have to meet requirements. There are requirements that your cart has to be up to par. Like it has to have, a hand washing sink that's separate from your food washing sink, and just certain requirements. But it was, once you knew what they needed and they make it pretty clear what you need, it really wasn't hard to get it together. And you get your first inspection. If something doesn't look right, they let you know. They give you some time to fix it before you can get it operating. And the fees were pretty minimal. So it was easy. It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So yeah.
That's awesome. Samantha, it looks like you're trying to start an herbal products company and you might want to do it out of a food truck instead because you think it'd be easier. Can you share?
Okay, well, I'm still a renter and I only have so much control over my kitchen space. I mean, there's a lot of things. I think that the state is flexible, and my contact sounded really like things were a lot more flexible than what you just read when you Google what the rules are. But at the same time, one of my potential landlords asked about, have you considered a food cart? Because then I wouldn't have to worry about the house catching on fire, which isn't really an issue for me because I'm not cooking food. I don't cook things yet. But anyway, but then I asked the state person, and she said that food carts are under city and not state regulation. And so I thought, well, maybe that's another reason to just look at food carts. I'm just wondering if anybody has thoughts about that.
Using a food truck for other than food? Do either of you have experience with that?
Other than food and food, like food and other things.
I got a question about that for you. I've done a little bit of work with folks figuring all that out. Is your goal with the herbal products to make like packaged products that you would sell like at grocery stores and things like that? Or are they like, basically the question is are they products that are meant to be packaged, or are they meant for like immediate, like service, like food to be eaten immediately?
No, I mean, I have a friend who's really into food to be eaten immediately, but myself, I've been more on the clinical end of herbalism, consulting with people about health issues and making individualized products. But I have this whole like interest in food and like how to incorporate my herbal skills and background into food. But anyway, I guess I'm mainly just asking because is this a way to kind of get around the fact that I am a renter? So what I can, the ways that I can change my kitchen space are limited. And I'm just wondering like whether a food cart might be a cool idea that a lot of herbalists haven't thought of yet.
I think the question will come down to whether, and maybe you've already talked with folks at the county or the state about this, but the differentiation between regulators has to do with the finished product more than the space you're doing it in. So part of food carts are regulated by the county because the county regulates all food service businesses. So the county regulates restaurants, and thus as an extension of that, they regulate food carts. because as food carts became a thing, they were seen as like a variation on a restaurant. What I think you're talking about with getting your home kitchen license, you're talking about domestic kitchen licenses, right? With the state, which were developed with the intention of folks being able to start little like food products companies from their home, like making granola or something like that. Right?
Would it be more of like, so, you know, am I limited on the space that I rent to live in, on a kitchen that works for me, or may it be a good, decent alternative to consider a food cart?
Yeah. What I was going to say was that I think what would happen is that the state would still be the regulator that would license your food cart as a production space for a herbal products company. I think that's what would happen. So yes, a food cart, if you could find a cart that could actually house the equipment you need to do the work you want to do, it might be a less expensive way to essentially build a production facility for an herbal products company, rather than buying a building or renting really expensive production space or something. Yeah. But I don't know of any examples of that, which is actually a little surprising to me because I'm sure they exist. And I would be curious to hear how the state would feel about it would be an interesting thing to explore. It seems like it could be cost effective, but I'd be curious to hear how, I think it's Jeff Green, who we work with down here, would respond to that.
Yeah, super interesting question. That is a great idea. Daniel's asking, do you take your trailer home at night? And I would assume no for both of you, right?
No, too much work.
Yeah. So
it's a lot of work to move. So no, I would not take it home every night. The only time I move it is when the city has an event and I have to move it, or when I was doing events, but I haven't been last year. So
have you guys ever experienced vandalism at all?
Oh yeah. Severe vandalism. Actually, the food cart that I have now has only been tagged a couple times, but I opened up the espresso cart next door to me and that's been broken into and like destroyed. Only the first month we were open, and then several like spray painting tags and poking holes in the tire. And so now they have an actual police camera that's stationed right next to the carts to kind of keep an eye on things, because it gets kind of crazy downtown. Definitely had a lot of issues with that. That's been probably one of the biggest hurdles of that location, is just the vandalism and the crazy people doing crazy things. So we're actually working with the city, the downtown manager right now, to get fencing put up to block behind our carts so people can't camp behind our carts and do other things behind the carts. So we're working on that right now to give it more structural like safety behind the carts. So yeah, that's been a big issue.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
For us, yeah, we've had similar stories too. Not too much vandalism or anything, but we've been broken into once, and that's pretty minimal in our whole like 5 years of being there. We've only been broken into once, which is pretty good. But I was gonna say, like, we're a block away from the jail, so hopefully that deters people. And the neighborhood has like the neighborhood has great surveillance too. All the buildings have like security cameras everywhere. But yes, same thing, we found that, just leaving it somewhere it's less work, to constantly load in, load out every day, but also it's good for building consistency, like people want to know where you're at all the time. Like that was like a common theme that we saw when we were moving around so much, was people were constantly asking, where are you going to be? Where are you going to be? Where are you going to be? And so it's nice to have some consistency, and, people know that you're there all the time. They know where to find you. They know what hours you operate. Just makes it a lot easier for people.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's another question in the chat and it says, how do you arrange for power and draining your tanks? Do you both have tanks, or does it just like output into the?
No, that's the fun one. That's what would make you maybe not want to do a food cart. I mean, I don't know how Tony's is, but the city makes us load in and load out. We have to bring our own water. We have to take our own water out. For 4 years, I've had to do the gray water on my cart and fill it in. And my freshwater tank is like 10, at least 2 feet above me. So I have to climb up the ladder and pour it in. It's difficult every day, and draining the gray water is difficult to do. So I finally actually went to the city and had them deliver a gray water tank, somewhat the same as you would have at an event. And I share that tank with all the other carts, and they drain it every week, which has made it a lot easier than having to haul it out. So that was like, yay, I finally thought of that. So that's been great. So that's kind of what's helped me in that department. I'm working on the freshwater thing, but the gray water's been resolved. So that's been good.
Yeah, pretty much the same as Heather. Heather, you could probably outfit the tanks to be, fit better. You can probably make like a fitting, insert like a fitting there where it'll be easier to screw in or something.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just the way they design the cart. It's a small little intake hole. So you have to be very
Gotcha.
careful with it. Otherwise it just flows right back out.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on. That's my next thing.
Yeah,
it's tricky.
But yeah, we load out too, and then we just have everybody be very, we have everybody on the cart who's working conscious of water, like don't leave the water running, when you're like, get your hands wet, use soap, turn the water off and scrub, and then rinse off, and not leaving it on the whole time. So that's something we're pretty conscious about, and because we have to load everything out too. And dumping wise, we just take it to the city's waste and water management dump site, and that's where we dump it. And that's down River Road. And Power, the wine lab where we park in front of, they provide us with our power outlets and whatnot.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, the city provides the power for me too. We each cart gets their own outlet, and we pay the city a monthly fee for that.
Cool. Tom, it looks like you're asking, Micah, you can go next, sorry. But it looks like Tom is asking in the chat, he has a big restaurant that's open right now that he's leasing in Florence. And Tom, you could totally unmute, but you're saying are food carts or clusters looking for this type of home base? Are you talking about the parking lot, or are you talking about actually setting up inside the restaurant? It wasn't clear.
Well, I'm going to put up for lease as a restaurant, but there's lots of starving restaurants these days. And I'm going to hit the road in my RV once I get somebody experienced settled in there. But it's commercial property with lots of uses, so I'm open to all the options. I'm sure your 5-part series will teach me more about that business on how to market to that type of lessee. But I've always thought that food carts need a home base. So I was just wondering if that's anything that's done these days. Being in Florence, and Daniel, you might know this more, people think going south of town 1 mile is like going on a vacation. I mean, they don't like to leave town. Kind of sad. Even Jerry's south of town a mile or two is an adventure for people. So just looking for prospects for this property.
Yeah, how did you guys hear about your locations? Like, did you look on Craigslist, or did you put an ad in saying I need a home for my food cart? So maybe, Tom, you could get some, maybe Craigslist, or put flyers around. What do you all think?
Well, I wanted to add one more thing before I unmute or mute. The Florence seems to be pretty hard on food carts. They have to keep them moving, only can stay a certain amount of time. So this is out of the city. Yeah. 1 mile.
Yeah, how did you guys find your locations?
I'll start. So remember I was telling you guys I used to work for another food truck called Bacon Nation. While I was working for them, I was laying all the groundwork and getting to know all the managers of all the places that they would go to. So I was, rubbing some elbows and smoozing up with everybody, and getting their contacts. And I was just hyping up our, because I had the thought of opening the food cart already up. So I was just like, hey, I'm about to open up the food cart soon, my own food cart. And if you guys have any open days, please keep me in mind. And just started laying the groundwork. And wherever Bacon Nation would go, I would introduce myself, like when I wasn't working, during off hours, and start getting the connects going. And that was pretty much how I was connected with all the places that I've been to. And the Wine Lab was one of those places. And then we just built like a really great relationship with those guys over time.
Nice. That's awesome.
But back to your question though, Solomon, Chad, I think that would be a great idea. You could even turn it into like a food cart pod, like where you could turn the restaurant into like a communal dining space, when things can go back to normal, and you can just have just serve alcohol on site, serve beer, and make it into like a cool food cart pod or something. That could be like an idea. If you build, they will come, right?
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I like that. I'll put some lottery machines in there too.
You can make it into an arcade. How about that? You can make it to like an arcade, slash, like a really fun place to go for people.
Well, that would be cool. Anyway, I'll give that idea some thought here, because I think that maybe the commercial kitchen would be useful to some carts too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you could rent out storage space, like cold storage.
I could give I have a quarter acre as a parking lot for the carts, but each cart could have its own storage space. There's a full 1,200-foot basement as well. So those are the types of things that I'm trying to brainstorm on.
That sounds amazing.
I put the address on the chat there. You could look it up and go to Zillow and see 30 pictures of the place.
Awesome. Thanks,
yeah.
Tom. That's really
Thank
cool.
you.
Micah, any last questions or thoughts? I think we're getting close to the top of the hour.
No, I'm very pleased. I know some new things I didn't know myself. That's great.
Yeah, awesome. Well, if you have any last questions, we could totally go for it, but make sure to check out the next 4 events coming up every Thursday, 5:30 p.m. with all the various food and beverage topics. So we're super excited. And thank you so much, Tony and Heaven. It was a pleasure to chat with you. And thank you so much, Micah, for the collaboration. So virtual applause. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Bye. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you. I learned something.
Great.
See you next
Bye
week.
from Florence.
Bye.
Bye, Daniel.